Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael, and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a throwaway account in the relationship subreddit. The post is titled, "My boyfriend ruined my trip and demands me to say sorry again. I'm a 24-year-old woman dating a 25-year-old guy for 1 year. I went to Italy for 4 days with my father. I was looking forward to this vacation because I was working part-time and writing my thesis at the same time. I work in telemarketing and it's very stressful. For a bit of context, my boyfriend has always had a tendency to create problems over nothing. He says I hurt him and makes me feel guilty because of very small things. He stresses me out almost every week. Sometimes I think the reasons he gets upset are ridiculous, but sometimes I wonder if I'm being too insensitive. However, because of this, I'm starting to stop enjoying his company because it feels like a headache. When I was flying to Italy, he wished me a good trip, to which I replied, "Thank you, see you there," with a kiss emoji. Then he responded, "Enjoy a lot," and sent me a screenshot showing that he used the money from my meal card to pay for something and that he would send me back the money. When the plane landed, I saw the messages and replied with "okay." He reacted with just one emoji to my message without any further reply. I was busy looking for my luggage and finding the bus I needed to catch to go to the hotel with my dad. He didn't reply to my message for the whole day. I thought maybe he was waiting until nighttime to text me back since I was traveling and it's hard to text while on the move. Later, my friends also wished me a good trip and gave me suggestions on what to visit in the city, which I replied to, but honestly, I barely talked to anyone because I was so busy catching public transport, walking, and finding the hotel. It was like this the whole trip. I was always visiting monuments and walking. At nighttime, he messaged me and told me how angry he was with me because I never replied to him and that he saw me online all day asking whom I was talking to. I told him he was the one who didn't reply and that I was talking with my mom and friends because they wished me a good trip. He said I should have replied to his message that said "enjoy a lot." But I only replied with "okay" to his screenshot. I apologized and explained that I was a bit busy. I was also expecting a message back from him. Honestly, I was surprised he didn't ask me how the flight was. He proceeded to annoy me for the whole trip, saying that I'm not his priority and that I don't give him enough importance, claiming that I value my friends more. I tried to explain that I was busy and barely talked to anyone. I just replied to their messages. I don't see anything wrong with that. He didn't text me back because he didn't want to. I mean, I barely have any friends, only 2, and we rarely hang out because we have busy lives. We only talk through messages. How is that giving more importance to my friends than to my boyfriend? He also started asking me for screenshots of my conversations, which I refused to provide. He got mad, saying I didn't want to share anything and insisting that partners are supposed to share everything. There's no privacy between them. I don't think he should demand screenshots of my WhatsApp messages, and he began demanding more apologies, claiming that I didn't apologize sincerely. I didn't reply to his messages for a few hours because I was busy visiting the city. He posted revengeful quotes on his status, basically saying that karma would get me and he would watch me screw myself over what I did to him. I thought this attitude was disgusting. He's wishing me harm because of something very small. He knew I was looking forward to this vacation and still made my life hell, ruining my trip. All I wanted was 4 days of peace and enjoyment. User forgot his password said, "I'm continuously surprised by why some people are in relationships like this. It's not that bad to be single. I much prefer it over the horrible relationships I've had, and that one just sounds exhausting." User C2Chi said, "I have dated his twin sister before. She couldn't abide my having fun without her. If she knew I was doing something I enjoyed, she would go all out to find a way to ruin it. Her favorite tactic was calling and insisting that we have a long conversation when I was supposed to go out to eat or meet people. Then, if I tried to get off the phone, she would lose her mind and start accusing me of not making her a priority. Often, that would be mixed in with threats that she wouldn't be there when I got home, or that maybe she would go out to bars by herself to have fun with someone else. As soon as I got home, though, things were relatively fine again. If I brought it up, she would tell me it was my fault for putting her last in my priorities and that I should have thought more about what she wanted. The first time it happened, it was shocking and I felt bad. But then it happened again and again, to the point that if I was at a friend's house and I got a call, they'd say girlfriend's name, and know that I'd be on the phone for at least half an hour and possibly have to leave in order to keep the peace. I thought maybe she was paranoid that I was cheating, but a lot of the time it was obvious that I wasn't, since I was usually just with other guys. Then I found out after we broke up that she was cheating, so maybe it was projection. To this, OP said, my boyfriend seems like her. It really seems they don't want us to have fun without them and start threatening us. I mean, I was on vacation with my dad for 4 miserable days. I can't have friends or even keep in contact with my male cousins. They're narcissists. Update. Finally, I found the courage to leave my abuser by ghosting him because I'm truly exhausted by all his demands and manipulation. He never respects my wishes or opinions, and he doesn't accept no as an answer. He always tries to make me feel guilty in order to force me to obey his wishes. It seems he also doesn't feel any empathy toward me. I decided to leave because I deeply miss my freedom, and I know I deserve to be happy. I went to the telecommunications store to change my phone number, but it takes 24 hours for the change to take effect. Since then, my phone has been turned off almost all day because he's constantly calling and messaging me. He even sent me an email saying I'm the most important person in his life, that he loves me a lot, and included details about his endoscopy saying he needs my help. I really want to leave this relationship because it's destroying me, but when I read his messages, it makes me feel so guilty and sad, like I'm abandoning him. The fact that I promised him I'd go with him to the endoscopy is making it even harder. Deep down, I know he might be using this situation to control me and manipulate me into staying out of pity, but I also know he will never change. He will always be an abuser, and I need to break free from this abuse as soon as possible. How do I handle the guilt? Am I a bad person for not going with him to the endoscopy? Update 2. Why is it so common for me to attract people with narcissistic and abusive behaviors? I'm going to be honest, my first boyfriend wasn't narcissistic or abusive. I think it's because I met him during a good phase of my life when I had self-esteem and felt good about myself. We broke up due to incompatibilities and because he was kind of taking advantage of my money, but besides that, he didn't show any signs of narcissism or abuse. While I was still in the dating phase, I got to know a few guys who wanted to take advantage of me and manipulate me to get what they wanted. When I was 19 to 20 years old, I was discarded by a guy who pretended to be my friend and a trustworthy person, only to tell me that he suspected he was a psychopath when he got bored of me. It was clear that he just wanted to put me down. Then I met someone through a dating app who pretended he fell in love with me in order to get a physical relationship and leave. He would lie about being serious about me and talk to other women behind my back. The good thing is that we never got physical, but it still hurt me. I just broke up with my current boyfriend. This was a relationship of 1 year and a few months, and it's when I suffered the most abuse. I've made several posts about this relationship, and I suspect that I fell into this because I met my abuser online when I was feeling very lonely, heartbroken, and had low self-esteem. I was feeling pressure from relatives to have a boyfriend and get married because I'm 24. This was the time of my life when I was still recovering from my breakup and the fact that the guy I met on the dating app lied and tried to trick me. I also didn't have any friends at that time. The only person I had was my mom. When I met my abuser, I thought he could be my person and we could have a good relationship. My first boyfriend wasn't a narcissist or abusive, but he still took advantage of me. He wanted to take advantage of my money. The other guys were also narcissists, and my most recent partner was the textbook narcissist who emotionally abused me a lot. Is it because I'm a sensitive person? Why do men always do this to me? They always want me to mother them, be responsible for every negative situation or emotion that they have, obey their demands while they don't care about my needs, my wishes, my emotions, and take advantage of me. Update 3, I've been in no contact with my abuser for 5 days now. It's hurting so much because I feel so guilty about leaving him. I promised him I'd go with him to his endoscopy and colonoscopy, but I had to ghost him due to all the abuse and manipulation. The relationship was destroying me. He's always trying to find ways to make me contact him again, such as sending gifts to my home, making constant calls, taking money from my meal card, reminding me about his endoscopy/colonoscopy, and sending love messages begging for me to come back to him. I don't feel like going out. I stay in my bed, crying and browsing the internet. I'm always on Reddit reading posts about abusive relationships, narcissism, and breakups. I can't go to the gym. I don't have energy to do anything. I just feel like staying in bed and venting about my breakup. Update 4. I ignored all the red flags about my abuser and my intuition because I was feeling lonely, unloved, unappreciated, abandoned, and wanted to be loved. Before meeting him, I had an experience with a guy from a dating app. I was lonely after a breakup and looking for a serious relationship. We clicked and started talking a lot. We talked for 3 months. He pretended he was very interested in me, starting to fall in love, and wanted to start a relationship with me. I found out everything was a lie. He just pretended to care and be interested in me to get physical. When I didn't accept sleeping with him, he just ditched me, and I found out he was talking to other girls behind my back. All our talks and dates were a lie. I was extremely sad because he deceived me. It was just flowery words and lies. After this situation, I met my abuser, a religious person from a conservative culture. I started getting fascinated with the value of commitment and structure of his culture. I wanted to be respected like the girls of his culture. I wanted someone to love me, see himself in a serious relationship with me, to marry me. I wanted genuine love and a serious relationship. I didn't want to be a time pass girl for some guy. The thought was hurting me. I know it sounds so naive, but it's the truth. It's what I was feeling at that moment. However, with the passage of time, I realized my abuser, the person who I thought would be a good potential partner for me, was actually abusive. I suffered abuse at his hands for 1.5 years. 1.5 years of manipulation, gaslighting, emotional torture, control, jealousy, anger attacks, humiliation, and disrespect. He wanted to isolate me from my family and friends, invade my privacy, and make me like a slave. He was forcing me to convert to his religion and become a slave for him and his parents. The fascination I had for his culture was over. He was always belittling my beliefs and culture. I wanted my old life back again. I've been going NC with my abuser for 1 week. I'm trauma bonded, and sometimes I feel so guilty about leaving him, but I know it was the best for me before it escalated to physical violence and an abusive marriage. My mom is scared of him. He has been stalking me by coming to my door and constantly trying to call me, sending pictures and audios of him crying just to manipulate me to stay. My mom suspects he was using me to bring his family from back home to Europe so they could have a good life and live together. I'd be their servant because that's women's destiny in his community. I feel devastated I had to vent about this. It sucks to be taken advantage of like this. I feel like I'll never find genuine love. I hate people who take advantage of our vulnerability for their own desires. I hate what my abuser did to me. I hate the way he treated me. I hate his culture. I hate his values and beliefs. This next post was made in the Off My Chest subreddit by a throwaway account. The post is titled, "I accidentally got my sister pregnant and we aren't telling anyone so that her rich husband will think it's his. My sister and I grew up very close. We are close in age. I'm 22 and she's 25, so we got to experience a lot of life things around the same time. Because of that, we became best friends super early on. Growing up, I was absolutely never attracted to her in any sort of way. I also believe it's worth stating that I have never had any sort of brother-sister fetish or any sort of incest fetish either, and after everything that has happened, I still don't. 3 years ago, I started college and moved to a different state. A few weeks after, my sister's longtime boyfriend asked her to marry him. It was the first time I was ever really far away from my family, and it bothered me really badly. I got severe depression and became really homesick. Around 7 months later, I got to fly back home and see my family for my sister's wedding day. It was one of the biggest days of my life, seeing my best friend marry the man of her dreams. Now, a tiny bit of backstory here. Her husband's dad is insanely wealthy, a really big name in the pharmaceutical business. He not only paid 100% for their huge wedding, but also bought them a gorgeous house in full as a wedding gift from the dad and mom. I went back to college and life back home went on normally. I was still really depressed and homesick, but decided to do what I had to do and just push on. I was able to visit back home a few more times because of holidays. The one time I went back home other than for a holiday was a surprise party for my parents' 30th anniversary. Usually when I went home, I would get picked up at the airport by my dad and would stay at their house in a spare bedroom. But because this was a big secret, my sister picked me up and I was staying at her house for the 5 days I was in town. The party was great and everything went wonderfully. There was a lot of alcohol there and I definitely drank my fair share. The party ended around 10 p.m. My sister and I were both pretty drunk and took an Uber back to her house about 15 minutes away. Her husband works long hours and was unable to take off work that day, and by the time we got home, he was already asleep in their bedroom. We decided to go into the spare bedroom that I was sleeping in just to catch up and talk. We chatted for around an hour and a half, just talking about life and everything. We were both pretty drunk at this point, and it was getting late. I had to pee and told her I would be right back. So I got up, walked into the bathroom attached to the bedroom I was staying in, and started to pee. I didn't think anything of it. When I walked back into the room, my sister was laughing. I asked her what was so funny when she admitted, "I somehow managed to go 22 years without seeing your dick." I was super confused and sort of embarrassed. I asked her what she was talking about. She told me that she could see into the bathroom mirror, which reflected where I was standing to pee. "Well, was it worth the wait?" I said, drunkenly laughing with her. Just like that, the mood of the room completely changed. It was like someone flipped a switch. We kept bantering back and forth for a few minutes when, out of absolutely nowhere, I started kissing her on the lips pretty aggressively. I immediately realized what I was doing and started to pull away when she grabbed onto my head and pulled me back. I got extremely turned on, and she did too. It didn't feel like we were brother and sister at all. It felt like we were longtime friends who finally gave in to each other's lust. Things got heated quickly, and before we knew it, we were having sex. It lasted for around 10 minutes before we both finished. We laughed it off nervously and got dressed quickly. We chatted for just a little bit longer before finally deciding to call it a night. It felt so wrong and weird afterward. The rest of my trip was super awkward, having to pretend that everything was normal while this was the biggest thing on our minds. But before I knew it, my trip was over and I went back to college. Weeks later, I received a text from my sister asking if I had some time to talk alone. My heart sank because I knew it was going to be about that night. I put it off for hours before finally calling her. She called me to tell me that she was pregnant and she's 100% certain that the baby is mine. I was speechless. I wasn't expecting something like this at all. We talked and tried to figure out what we should do. We were cornered in a situation that was so beyond our heads that we couldn't even figure out where to start. Abortion came up multiple times in discussion, but neither of us wanted that. We decided that it would be best to act like her husband is the father and raise it as such without ever telling anyone because of how wealthy his family is. She is due the week of June. Absolutely no one knows or has even the slightest clue. This is a secret that my sister and I have put our lives on the line to protect. Things will never be the same between us. In the last handful of months, I have become a heavy drinker and party goer while failing almost every one of my classes. It's messed me up a ton. It's going to be super weird whenever I have kids now too. It's strange how a quick, dumb decision could change the rest of your life.